Hey guys, again, I hope you're ready. And yeah, I'm ready. You see here the thing that I need. First of all, welcome to paid events differently. And for those who don't know me, I'm Song. I'm one of the event hosts. And if you have been painting with us for a while, you know me. The last year, I haven't been hosting a lot of public events, more private events. But here I am back online, and I'm looking forward to enjoy a colorful afternoon with you. And thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, today we will paint the Starry Night together, one of our quite popular paintings, also one of my personal favorite ones. And before we start, I just wanted to show you another warm-up version that I made yesterday, just to give you an idea about that you can pick other color tones too. You can really be free, because today I'll be showing the event with the basic colors. That's what you can see in the plate. Because with these primary colors, black and white, you can practically mix all the colors. And if you have additional colors, of course, you can use them too. It's just I'm showing it with this because a lot of you guys ordered the Flurry Art Starter Kit. Just yeah, just because. Okay, so what we have here today. So I unwrap my canvas. Just to start with, many people ask us what this is for. So these little wooden sticks, you can put them inside here, but just don't. I'll explain why. So this is to stick in here, but I never do that. Because this is supposed to make the tension in the wood frame bigger, and but you only do this when the canvas starts to to be loose sort of. But since it's quite a small size, yeah, you don't have to make it uh, more tense or something. So I keep this because sometimes I use this for painting and like as a spatula thing. Yeah, so that's this one. And by the way, guys, if you want to write the questions, if you have questions in German or Swiss German, you can do that as well. I'll try my best to look into this area a little bit, where as you can see your chat. And if not, I will go through the questions at the end to make sure that the questions get answered. I would say I just start. Um, Sorry, that's my first time online teaching, so kind of a little bit nervous, but I hope you can bear with me. Yeah, so you got from Flurry Art this big brush that I won't use for this painting because it's not like usually this brush I would use for 30-40 or bigger canvases, so I will leave this one away. What I will use is I will use the second biggest one, that is the size 9. There's this round one for the clouds, size 5, and also something in between. The spare ones I'll keep there, just sometimes I'm also too lazy to wash my brush. Yeah, so that's it. See here the basic colors. Yeah. Okay, so if you've been to guided events, acrylic events, you know that we usually start with the background, just adding one basic layer. This is what I will do now. So switching this here. So I'd like to invite you to pick a color theme. I will stick to the original colors that is mainly blue, a little bit greenish. And if you're a beginner, like a very beginner, I would suggest you to follow what I do, like what I blend. But of course, you can use other colors. This is why I also created an alternative version, also to encourage that there's no right or wrong. It's more about having fun, getting just the therapeutic fun aspect of painting. That's at least how I enjoy painting most. And so I will create a base color for the background that is the sky and the bottom or the lake. And later I will create this cloud shape, and then I'll go to the mountain with the mirroring, and then lastly I create this shore and the forest. And in between there are some stars. So let's get started. So first thing I do is I mix the colors, and I just have another Flurry Art painting carton here to demonstrate, but if you have a piece of paper or even something like this, it's okay. It's just that you don't have to put it on the original canvas. Oh, thank you. Somebody said I'm doing great. Cool. Again, any ground is good. This is just a very little warm up. Also to see how powerful black is. You see, just a tiny little bit of black makes the blue very dark. So you can mix a little bit of yellow inside to get something like a turquoise, a turquoise, something like that. And a bit more. If you want to add white, you can do that. It will make the whole thing more pastel. So that's for it. You can add the second color as a practice to blend. And you see that I just use the pure paint. You can use water as well, but whenever you use water, I recommend just to get 1 drop, 2 drops, so it's not too liquidy. And this is just, I prefer my paint to be opaque and not transparent. But you can test also the water effect to see what happens. You will also notice when you use water that the paint is easier to blend, which is sometimes what you want. So, and I'll keep that thing, if it's a paper or a carton, whatsoever, or a napkin, I'll keep this at the side only that I can test colors. This one I actually don't use. Okay, so for my version today, I will create now a dark blue. You can of course use this plate. And the first thing I do, I will really cover a third of the canvas dark blue, and on the bottom side, and like 2-3 centimeters. Oh, you can see that I'm wearing an apron. Usually it's yes, we do wear aprons, but if you're wearing an old shirt, of course that's fine too. Just be careful of your sleeves, and if you have long hair, I prefer to like put them like this so that my hair doesn't get into the paint. But if you ever do have paint on your clothes or in your hair, just make sure that you wash them immediately, because acrylic colors, as long as they're as it's wet, you can still wash them out. It's no problem. So as I paint, you can see that you can see the fabric, the texture of the canvas. If you don't like that, if you want the little white things to be gone, you can either use a drop of water so the paint blends more easily, or you can just use more paint to cover it up. And if you want it lighter, of course, you can make the background light from the very beginning, but as said in the beginning, it's just the first layer. You can cover it up later. It's more about having a theme of your sky, let's say. If you want to blend another color, please let me know in the chat. I can demonstrate it on the canvas. Oh, whoopsie. You see that I make circular movements. You can also just make horizontal movements like this. Doesn't really matter. It's how you like it. So and I personally really like green, so I will take a tiny little bit of the yellow. You can blend it on your other canvas, other napkin, or you can blend it on the color plate, or you can also do it directly on the canvas. As long as the paint is still wet, you can blend it. Once it's dried, it's just the overpainting, not the blending anymore. So, as I'm getting closer, like covering up all the white area, I use again blue or black. So I define my horizon somewhere. It's maybe a third of the canvas for me. And I didn't switch the brush. You see, I still use the same brush. I just use the pointy part. That's also maybe a good exercise, like to use the brush a little bit differently. And I will now make an outline for the mountains. Again, also this one is the first layer. My mountains won't be blue, they will be blackish. But that's just to give me a personal reference of how they should be roughly. So, and when I do this, when I paint an outline, it's in landscape. What I often notice, just a second. Okay. Okay, okay. Ich mache nur schnell den Satz fertig. Okay. What did I say? Ah, yeah. So when it comes to landscapes, now you see this is a bit symmetrical. I'm also trying to create unsymmetrical shapes because especially for the mountain later, you will see that I just prefer them to be a bit irregular because I feel that looks more organic rather than looking like the pyramid or something. And you see here that I created the real outline, and now what I will do, that's my personal thing, you can keep the canvas upright. I will do the symmetrical part like this already. Okay, I'll give you some time to paint this step. And whenever I'm too fast or too slow, you can say it in the comments. And also, Martin just told me some people didn't get the link. We're very sorry for that. So welcome to you guys too. I hope you can join, or otherwise we will have the whole thing recorded as well. You can still ask questions at the end, and if you want to paint a second version of the Starry Night, you can do that, and we're happy to answer your question via email or on the phone as well. And a big thanks also to Flurry Art for collaborating with us, because without them it will be impossible for us to manage all these lovely starter packs in such high quality and fast delivery. So Flurry Art, thank you so much for your effort. And yeah, it's always fun to paint with your materials. And yeah, this is here. Oh, I don't know why I'm still painting this, because the outline is actually enough. Also, that's an outline for the mountain. Again, I turn because this way it's easier for me to just estimate the correct distance in the mirroring. So, like if you're uncomfortable on this step, like if you appreciate really precise mirroring, you can also get a ruler, or sometimes what I like to do is I use the end side of the brush. I turn it again and I just do this, and on the horizon I mirror it, and then notice, oh, my mountain, the other one is too small, so I will make it a slightly bit bigger. And yes, even though that's the first layer, I would not recommend to make this short too complicated, just because we will paint a mirror together, and the more, yeah, you get it, you get the idea, I guess. Oh yeah, so for the newbies, the ones who got the link later, again, so sorry. What we did, yes, you can see here, we first painted the whole, gave a basic layer to the sky above, and also to the mirroring, the lakeside above, below. And this middle part I left white for now to create this reference line for the landscape. And now I will actually keep blending the lower part of the sky, and I will use now quite a bit of white because I want this to bright up, so the focus is in this area of the painting. And you can check if your paint is still wet. I think mine almost dried. So it's okay, I'll just take some fresh paint and blend over. And as I create this paint for this color for the sky, I'll do the same with the lake side, so it really seems like a reflection. Oh, by the way, that was not, it's totally fine if you don't measure your mountain, like the height. It's just, I personally know it. Sometimes I can be super perfectionist about these kind of things, and it actually calms me down if I'm allowed to measure something. But if it doesn't bother you, of course, just trust your eyesight. And there are also people, they didn't, we had this event a couple of times that they just skipped the mirror. Nobody noticed until you told them. So it's all fine. It's about having fun. Oops, now I overpainted my mountain. That's okay. Oh, too much black. Oopsie. Okay. Um, here something happened. I think I see it even more extreme in real, but you can also see it in the video. That is, this area is often when people blend for the first or that's just the second time, you create this like steps area that you don't want. You want the transition to be smooth, but it's not. There's a question. I'll get to that in a second. So what you can do is, let's say you want the dark blue to blend into the lighter blue. No, that's a bad example. Let's say you want the light blue to blend into the white. What you can do is you can clean your brush on the napkin. Doesn't have to be fully cleaned. You get a bit of the white and you start from the white side and then you start to blend into blue. And then you clean your brush again. You take the blue, you go for the blue side, and then you blend into the white area again. And then you keep doing that until you have the smooth gradation that you want. And the question? No, you did nothing wrong. Somebody asked that why the paint, or that the paint is already dry and then you can't blend anymore. That is true with acrylics. Once it's dry, it's fixed, let's say. So what you need to do is you have to recreate this paint again. And if it's this one, yeah, that's a little bit a tricky thing, but as well as the advantage of acrylic paint that you can work quite quickly. But on the other hand, you have to work quite quickly if you want to keep a blend in one large area. This is why sometimes if you use oil colors, oil doesn't dry within 48 hours, I think. You can keep working on one area super, super long and it doesn't dry. So it means you can make fine transitions very easily, whereas acrylic paint, you don't have to hurry up, but you have to, you can't let them for an hour dry or even 15 minutes. You have to blend within 15 minutes. Does this answer the question? So now I have here quite a shock, let's say. So I will clean my brush again and take some white and blend this white in. So So I'm just using this light blue that I already created to finish up the sky. You see that I overpaint slightly sometimes my outlines. That's fine because their only purpose is to give me a reference where they should be later. And I will repaint the outline later on the third layer or second layer. And here you can just really keep it white. And if you have white and blue and green only, it would might seem a little bit like rather cold colors. If you have an orange ready, or if you want to blend an orange to make the whole thing like spice it up a little bit, you can do that and blend into the white. I'll just make a little experiment here and put in some pink. Actually, sorry, not pink, magenta, the primary red. Yeah, looks nice, but it's just a little bit like this. And I can blend like this because my white is still wet. By the way, this transition in the sky, I don't worry about them too much because I will put a lot of clouds on top and also the stars, and as well as I will probably repaint some areas. But here, the lakeside, I will pretty much leave it as, yeah, to the end, basically. So that will be more or less my final layer. So if there are things I don't like, I'll just clean that a little bit and add some paints here because it feels that it's a little bit thin. So there we go. Same thing up here, edges. Check the time. Yes, you can always make. Oh, so sorry. Somebody asked. The white color is already thick. Can I think it with mixing it with water? So the white color, as long as you can blend it, you can always add water. It will just make it a little bit more thin. But if you add water drop by drop, you probably won't notice it on the canvas. So you can use the water like as a blending medium. You can take the water and the white to mix it in here. Take some more water. And then you can see what happens when you put this on top. Oh, that's a bit gray. I didn't want that. So I wanted to just to demonstrate a white thing, but no problem. I'll clean my brush and remix again. Is it okay with mixing the white with water? Since I can't see you, see your painting process, I'll just fix some things that I personally want them to be changed, but it's nothing new. Like if you have something like this, you will be ready for the next step. That would be the clouds, the cloudy, starry sky. I'll start with it in maybe 4 or 5 minutes, so you still have some time. Yeah, is that okay for you guys that I wait a little bit? And while waiting, if you like to go for a drink or bathroom or something, you can just keep your paintbrushes in the water. That's very important. Unlike with watercolors, there you don't have to keep it in water. But with acrylic, it's very, very important. So then you can clean your brushes so they stay healthy. Okay, cool. Okay, thanks for feedback. So I'll wait a couple of minutes. Oh, hi, Anna. One of our artists just joined the webinar as well. Oh, Anna Patz, she will also hold a webinar tomorrow at 1 with watercolors. simple watercolor flowery workshop. Sorry, I don't have the correct title, but if you have time, if you feel more artsy crafts now, you're welcome to join hers as well, of course. So that's it. Guys, if you're ready, if you want to see the next step, that is the galaxy or Milk Street, Milky Way, sorry, you can just write it in the chat that's ready for the next step or something like that. Or if you're ever bored or something, you can at the same time paint a second painting, or you can also paint the edges here. You can use them as an extension, like trying to extend the color themes as I'm so bad at explaining this. So you can just pretend the canvas goes beyond the edge, or you can do something what I did for the second version. I just used a color that appeared to be here, that is something dark on the edge side. Here is a little bit purple because I ran out of black and I didn't want to use new ones. Yeah. For some other paintings, I picked a completely other color that is red, so totally like off topic, just to make the frame more as a thing. Yeah, I did that in my old days. Now I'm more into this yeah, not the frame not to be a thin thing. Yeah. Okay, some people are ready. Cool. Oh, and at any time, if you miss a step, that's also why I have a second canvas here. I can just show this particular step on the second canvas again. So don't be shy. I'm here for that. Okay, then for this, if you have a sponge, get your sponge ready. If you have this, what we use in at Paint Lounge, you have a rough side of a sponge. This is a very basic cleaning sponge. We cut it in 6 pieces. And so this is why you have this rough side and this soft side. And I let the edges sharp on purpose. You will see later why. And this side, I don't use it to paint clouds. I more use it for abstract paintings, like just make it like a raining effect by pulling paint down like that. It looks a little bit as if you use a toothbrush and pull it down like this, or a rough brush. So for the clouds, what I will do is I will use this very edge, and because if I use this whole surface, first of all, it will be quite big. The clouds won't be that big. And the second of all, you will have the square stamp, which is not very cloudy. So this is why I'm pushing like this. So it kind of gets an organic structure or organic form. So one thing, what I do first is I think a little bit, I'll get the second painting here. So I think a little bit of how my Milky Way or galaxy roughly should go. Should it go like a bow, or should it be like this S shape? Here I first created this S shape. I decided for this one, and then spontaneously I added a second something like this here. And yeah, and you can also think about that, if yeah, first of all, how long, how big, how dominant it should be. And then once you get that, you take a small brush, can be this the round one or the rectangular one, doesn't matter. You take a bit of water and a dark color that is already in your sky. So not a new color. For me, it would be something like this, like here. Maybe you have to recreate it because it's dry already. So with this dark color, what I will do now is to pull a line through my sky. That is this line. That's a reference line, so later I'll know how to work with the sponge or where to work with the sponge. So that should be something like an S. And then once I have this, I will make it a bit thicker. So that's the middle way of my Milky Way. And don't worry for this strong area here. We will cover it up later, or we will integrate it into the sky as further steps. And also here you can, without the clouds, you can also start blending a little bit already into the sky. Make it a bit stronger. I know this part looks a bit dramatic, like a thunderstorm or something, but once the cloud comes, the thunderstorm will go away. Don't worry. Okay. So I use a round brush. This time this one I will really clean first on the napkin and then in my two water cups. Or if you just have one, that's fine too. Then I dry it again on the napkin just to check if I still have paint on it, because that's also the brush I will paint the cloud with. That is white, so this is why I want it to be clean. So I keep it in the water. Okay. So if you have a sponge, I think I have a second one somewhere. I am here. So I have a, like, let's say, artsy sponge, and I have a kitchen sponge, and either of these are fine. And when you use the sponge, it's a sponge, it will soak a lot of water if you let it, and that's why I never recommend to put this in too much water or put it even in a water cup. And so I just use it as dry as possible, but sometimes the paint can be too thick, so I would rather, if I want the paint to be thinner, I take a brush, create some of that paint, and then I use this one. That's a bit too thin, need a bit more paint. So again, we change the tool now, so I will invite you to use the sponge just a little bit on another surface, just to get to know the sponge a little bit, and also get to know how thick the paint should be when you're using a sponge. You can just tap like this. You can do circular movements like this. You can also use the paintbrush as an addition to make some particular shapes. So I'm using my round one. You can also use a bigger one, that's okay too. And here I make circular shapes. I tap, 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 tap it. And then I tap somewhere else again. And if you have a bit of a transparent white paint, the blue underneath will shine through, and sometimes that's something that I really like, because that gives the whole thing a little bit of a lightness. So one thing I try to do when I paint clouds is that I have a thick area just at one edge, so I'm using a lot of paint, and like sort of distribute the paint on a large area like this. So that's what this for warming up with clouds. And so here, when I start to paint the Milky Way cloud, I think of a main cloud. So in this painting, my main cloud is this one. And then as I was painting, I started to create a second group of main clouds here, and the third group of main clouds here, and this two just happened somewhere in the way. So it's just to have a cloud to start with, because if it took me a long time to get used to, like, be comfortable to paint clouds. That was not my favorite thing in the beginning when I started painting. But when somebody said that I should think in groups when I think of clouds, even though they seem cloudy as a big thing, it can sometimes be helpful to picture them as if they were pieces, or if they were in if they come in groups. So here again, I take my sponge. I have not too much, that is something like this. And I will start to paint the first cloud. It's here. I make a circle. You see, wow, a lot of white and some extra white here. Okay. And I make some other circular movements. And then I just start dabbing. See, I have a lot of white paint here. Take my brush and make the paint go away a little bit. Or I can just use my brush. So here the round one really helps, and distribute it like this. So here I have a group, and why I'm saying I paint a group of clouds is because I won't paint clouds all over the street, because otherwise that looks quite heavy. And so my next cloud will be here. You see my dark blue is still a bit wet. That's fine. Okay, and I go to the other side. So me personally here, again, I like to turn my canvas and just approach it from the other side. So when I have a main cloud here, I won't have a main cloud directly on the opposite, again, because it feels a bit stiff to me. So I will go somewhere in between. So if you have a sponge, you just pimp up with your sponge. Okay, so now I have quite like the first step of my cloudy sky. And you can either leave the brush strokes as they are on your painting. I will leave, like I said before, I will leave the brush stroke structure in the lake like this. But for the sky ones, you can't see it in the video, but in real, it's quite visible. And for this part, I will clean my sponge a little bit, but I don't want it to be too wet. Or if you have a second one, then take that one and put the other sponge in the water so it doesn't dry out. So I'm just cleaning off the white because I don't want my dark sky to go back to white again. Now, I recreate dark blue. Adding a tiny bit of magenta. Not that I want it to be purple, but just to create a little bit of another blue tone. So, and then I take it with a sponge, get some more here. And then I start to tap in the dark areas where I have the same paint. And I slowly getting closer to my clouds to integrate my clouds to the rest of the sky. And I really also like blending the colors with a sponge. So I take with my blue sponge, I go into the white a little bit, and I started to blend it on the canvas by tapping it more. And this is, by the way, how the second cloud, like here, happened, because I had too much white, and it just, so, oh, shit, too much white, but, well, on the second thought, doesn't look so bad, so I can make a cloud out of it. And sometimes just behind a group of clouds, you can just right after that, you can add a second group or half group of clouds like this. And maybe you noticed that some areas of your skies turned out to be brighter or darker than you expected. For me, this area, I don't know, it seems quite bright. I'll just see what happens if I make it darker. Wow! Oh, yeah, I actually like it. So dark colors was a good choice for me so far. If not, you let it dry and you sponge over it. That's fine. So, and by the way, I have so much yellow left because originally I think I planned to have um, the sky a bit more turquoise, but I somehow missed it. So yeah. So I noticed that my Milky Street inner side, this way here, it's a bit um, transparent. So that's why I am adding a second layer of paint. second. Put this here. Go to questions. And yeah, maybe the person asked for the time to dry. It seems that I can still blend my paint, but a painter can't. It's because it's dried already. Um, and I guess you're using Flurry Arts color too, so we are on the same page with the paint. Yeah, sometimes I think you can add a bit of water as well. What I also do here, it actually should not make a difference, but I don't know, maybe it can be still helpful, that I added 1-2 drops of water on the paint around so it stays fresh. But this is actually more for the color plate, not that the whole paint is more liquidy or something. And yeah, so you can try to add more water so it will stay a bit fresh longer. But if it keeps drying, I think the best option is really to make a lot of the second paint. So let's say you're blending this area, this cloudy area here with the light blue, and you want to integrate it to the dark blue part, and you know that the dark blue, even though you just created it, it will be a little bit too dry to blend. So you keep the dark blue always ready, like you rather blend too much of it, so you have it ready when you want to blend it into the light blue again. And other than that, if you want to keep painting, and for another time, I think Floriat has it, but I'm not completely sure. But there are this paint thinner, not thinner, but paint extender. What was their names? So there's like a medium you can put into the paint. It's transparent, and it makes the paint last longer. Sorry, I think if I had to search for it, I would just also Google how to make my acrylic paint not dry so fast or something like that. And there's another question. My clouds look heavy. What can I do to make them look a bit smoother? So heaviness, maybe I'll just show it. I can just make a guess. Oh, whoops. Paint. Take back my sponge. So my first guess would be, if you like, you can send a photo with the area of your painting to info@paintblends.ch. But my guess is that there is too much paint on the canvas, so I'll paint it here. So if you did circular movements like this, and you used maybe, let's say, this much of paint, then you see, all you can see is white. So if it's not the case, sorry, that's what happens often, because the sponge, it's quite inviting to get a lot of paint on it, even though you see it's just a little bit, but sometimes it happens that then you have more than you expected. In this case, that's okay as well. Like, the one way to make it lighter is to let the backside, to let the dark blue shine through by using not too much paint. But if you sometimes you also want to use a lot of paint because you like the structure of the paint. So what you can do is, in this case, you create some of the other blue, the dark blue before, and oh, is it dry? I will just use any color, so you can see. So I will use gray to demonstrate, and I'll, next to my group of clouds, I will start sponging. and sponging on top so it blends. And I will just leave one small area white, and all the other areas will somehow get dark, a little bit darker. Yeah, I use now gray and it looks very stormy and cloudy. I'll add some blue to that. So now I have quite a bit of paint on this canvas, but my clouds didn't get smaller, but I have the feeling it got a bit lighter, like this. Okay, now I took away too much, so I will recreate the shape. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay. I need to. Yeah. And here, maybe that's a good place to demonstrate adding like neighbor groups to the one group of clouds. So now you have here a surface of bluish or grayish, whatever. And now I just sponge in a bit of white. Again, I try to keep one area super white, super light and white, and then the other areas I just blend the paint into the background color that is light blue. Like this. So, okay, cool. Just checking quickly if I missed any questions. Oh yeah, I see. Give me a second, I will let down the blinds. Oof. Nope. Okay, good for the cloud part. I'm just waiting a little bit because I'm okay. Yeah, now it's good. But now it's a bit dark, isn't it? Second, I'll fix the light situation. Ding, könntest du doch das Licht ein bisschen direktes Licht machen, weil jetzt habe ich die Storen ganz runter gemacht. Sieht man es gut? So I'm just adapting slowly the light situation because I just put down the blinds completely and just checking. Siehst du's schon? Okay. How is the light? Can you see the painting well? It's okay? Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Guys, are you ready to for the next step? That is um, sprinkling the stars. Okay, cool. Thanks. Glad the light situation solved. Cool. Thanks for feedback. Oops. Okay, cool. So for the starry part, I will first demonstrate how to use the toothbrush to create the stars, and then I will use the paintbrush to show a similar way of star making. But the stars will be a little bit different, but it should be fun either way. So like brushing the teeth, you first put the toothbrush in water. You take a napkin, you make sure that this toothbrush is not dripping. And then what you need to do is you need to create a white paint. I would recommend to use the pure white and add maybe a drop of water on something and then slowly take paint. It should not be like watercolor because then it's a bit too transparent. It should be, it's hard to describe. It's sometimes you have to just try it to see if it sprinkles. So once you made the original paint a little bit less thick, you can start to put it on your toothbrush. Sometimes you can feel that it's super thick and the paint won't go off toothbrush. I can't tell you exactly how much paint you need to put on it, but for sure not like toothpaste. That would be way too much. You just put a little bit. If it's too little, you will just have to put more. And for the first sprinkle, I would recommend again to use something like this. Now be careful of your surroundings. I put the laptop a little bit to the side. And now from the angle, to be on the safer side, I go from the top and I try to aim perpendicular down, not like spreading like this. But if you want the stars to spread like this, and if your surroundings is safe, protected, then you can do that as well. So usually I would sprinkle like that. You see, with the toothbrush, you generate very, very small stars. That's just how it is, I guess. But if you wanted to like spread more in this direction, you can also hold up your canvas. Here you can see it super well. It's just for you to test. You can also use another color to test how the sprinkle technique works. So sometimes I just use my fingers to add on paint. Oh, I already sprinkled on it. That's fine. That's too big. Oopsie. So let's sprinkle. Oh, keep a napkin ready so you can clean excess white. Oh yeah, one thing, I hope I'm not too late with it. If you sprinkle, keep it slow. Like don't sprinkle all over the place, because it's fun. And sometimes it can look better if the stars are a little bit more concentrated and not like equally white all over the place. So just do it on a slow pace. Always check in with your painting if you like the amount, if you like what you're doing. So that's with the toothbrush. If you don't have a toothbrush, that's fine, as said before. So what I will do, I will use about the size of the brush that I've been using before. For the white paint is the same idea. For the texture, you take a bit of paint, a bit of water, 1-2 drops. You mix it with the paint. Well, the texture, maybe you can say it's like a yogurt drink or something. Then again, you take the other canvas to test. You take another paintbrush, and then you start to hit. And then you can quickly notice if you have too much paint on it or too little. Too little, it doesn't sprinkle. Too much, well, yeah, you will see the splash. Yep, that's too much. So getting off of the excess paint, sprinkle again. If you think your sprinkle look nice, you go on the canvas. So that's it for me. I think there are some sprinkles that, in my opinion, doesn't need to be there. So I will take napkin and even tap it a little bit, either to blend them into my surroundings or just take them, remove them. If you happen to have a big star somewhere that you don't like, you can take a bit of clean water, put it on your canvas, and take a clean napkin and dissolve it a little bit, since you just put acrylic paint on the canvas, and then you can just clean it up. So maybe 1-2 more. if you want to highlight some stars, if you want to highlight some stars, but you don't want to sprinkle them, you can use the backside of the brush. Take white paint like this, and then you put it to highlight some stars. Like the harder you push, the bigger your round shapes become. So the bigger your stars become. But if you want to create small ones, you just push very lightly with the backside of the brush. Yup. This. Yeah. Good. So once you're done with sprinkling with the stars, we will move further on to the mountain and to the shore, to the landscape. And yeah, so I think I will slowly move on. If you need a longer break, like or a longer time, like 10 minutes, you can write it in the chat. And then I'll try to be a bit slower, but otherwise I'll slowly show the next step. So you already created a reference, and for this reference again, now it's to make it official. Sorry, not official yet. Now it's to make it to add a second layer. For this, I take the small brush as in the round one, size 5. And first, I add the second layer for the mountain, this one, and then I will add the second layer for the shore. So mountain, as said before, I try to make it not like a pyramid unless I want it to look like a pyramid. That's not to say that pyramid is wrong. And it's just often we had the questions of why does my mountain look weird? And then most when we suggested to make it a bit asymmetrical, people were happier. That's why I mentioned this. So for the mountain, I have on each side the highest point, the peak. I have a reference. I will mark my reference with white. You can also pick a grayish color. So this is the basic layer for the mountain. Just paint. First, I paint really something like a triangle. Then I will correct the shape. So now my white is super thin because I use it for the stars. I might need to get some fresh white. So I noticed that everything is super light in my painting. I'll just create a light gray so I can see the difference. So when you're painting the mountain, you can hit the shore a little bit. Not the shore, the other mountains, the mountains in the front. That's okay because you will overpaint that. Big screen. Ding? My screen is frozen. Thanks for telling. We'll fix the problem. Mhm. Das ist entfrozen. Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry guys for the screen. We need about 5 minutes to fix the technical issue. Sorry about that. But to show you, meanwhile, this is what I have done so far. I just set the outline for the mountains and I painted it with light gray. And I will leave it partly dry a little bit. And then I will add some highlights like gray, darker gray parts and lighter white parts. So it has something like a rocky structure. Soll ich noch was machen? Okay. Sollte sehr gut sein, oder? So, sorry everyone, is it now back to normal? Cool, thanks. Glad. So you can Now, because before I think you guys couldn't see my mountains when I was holding it. So now you can see a bit of the gray. And if it's, let's say, for this step, it could be nice to leave the mountain dry for 1-2 minutes, just so the paint is not that liquid. And you will see in a second why. Here, I would then recommend you to take a dry brush or just clean the current one like this, or dry the current one. Ideally, we have a gray prepared, which I don't have, so I will recreate it. And I will use very, very little of this gray paint, maybe even try on the other one. And so why I'm creating this darker gray is just to give the whole mountain a bit of a contrast to later create this rocky structure. And I will just make one part, the part that is sort of in the shadows, but not really because the light is coming from everywhere. And I'll do the same thing with the mirror part. So, and add some random gray stains on the mountain, but maybe more focus on this one part. And now maybe you see why I wanted the paint, the white from the mountain, to dry a little bit, because when it's super wet, what happens is you can't paint over it. You keep taking the paint away with the brush. And the other thing is the gray instantly blends in with the white, which I don't necessarily want for that. So once you have a bit of gray in your painting, you can take some clean napkin. Pretend that you want to take away a little bit of the gray, but the purpose is just to smash it or to have like a finger sponge. You can even paint with your finger sponge. Oops, that was a lot. So that's it. And the same thing now with the highlights. I clean off my gray brush. And now I just make sure that my brush is completely clean, because I will now use the pure white and highlight the other side of the mountain. And by highlighting, I mean just to highlight it on some parts, because if you imagine a mountain, or let's say a rocky shape, the light won't fall into the whole line unless you have some like a sun light source just behind, which it isn't in this painting because the light is in German it's called diffuse, it's like everywhere. So I take again the paint, so I kind of just dab a little bit around, and also in the mountain. And whenever you're doing a step on the real mountain, I would recommend to do the same a second time for the mirror, because once you're done with the real mountain and then to create the mirror is just a lot more effort. So here I will paint again a little bit too much, like I will cover up a part of the shore, the hills in the front, the black ones. So okay. So in my painting, my mountain is not very, very obvious, but like to me, I think that's fine. It's for me, that's more a piece of the decoration in my painting. But if you want to make it more obvious, more prominent, you can still add more contrast by making your mountain either darker or lighter. And also you can add more, almost using like a spatula, put thick paint on the mountain, then it will be will have have more of a theme as well, like this. So you can still keep working on this mountain area, but meanwhile, you can also start to create the shore, the hills. For this, I think for the original version, I used just pure black. But if black is too extreme for you, you can add another color. I'll create a dark blue or black blue, sort of, using the small brush again. And then I will again define my horizon. And for this step, if it's helpful for you, you can turn it, or you can keep the canvas as it was. And then you can start outlining the hills, always keeping this reference line in the eyesight. You see, for this step, you can keep on working on these two mountains, but just in the middle, it should be done before you start this darker area, because now I'm covering it up. Once you have the outline, you can just fill it with the black or dark color. Here you might notice these little white parts because of the texture of the fabric of the canvas. And again, like for the sky, you can use half a drop of water just to make the paint a little bit more thin so it's easier to blend to paint with the paint. This way you can make really smooth lines, smooth outlines. But if you plan to put some trees there anyways later, you don't have to make it smooth now. Okay. We'll just add some blue on the heels to see what happens. Yeah, I like it a bit more colorful. And maybe the painting is fine as it is. If you would like to add some fluffy area like the forest right at the mountains and on the left or right side, you know what I mean, the fluffy part, not the smooth part. Here I would recommend to again keep this brush, just turn it and tap it this way to create forest or a forest-like shape. For this step, it's just important that you don't have a lot of paint on the pointy part, because then you have a stain and not a fluffy tree. Yeah, sometimes it's a bit tricky, but that's why you have a napkin so you can try. And when I do this for the real scenario, for the real nature, I'll do this for the mirroring part as well. So just quickly check the name because I said something about in German is irgendwas mit verzögere, so make the paint last longer, so the paint is still wet for a longer time. I'll just Google how it is in English. Oh, ich glaube, es ist Retarder. Oh yeah. Yeah, so while you're painting forests and hills, quickly back to an earlier question, that is, what can I do if the paint dries faster than I wanted to, because you want to spend quite a bit of time to blend. And again, depends on humidity and on the temperature. Sometimes the acrylic paint really dries fast. So what you can get is a Verzögerer in German or a retarder in English. It's a transparent medium. It looks like a glue. You mix it with your acrylic paint and it will have the benefits of working with oil, but it's not as, let's say, sticky as working with real oil. And also I think it will still dry quite quickly. You don't have to leave your painting dry for 3 days or something before you can add a second layer. How long it is exactly, I see it on here on one side that is the drying times is prolonged for 20 minutes. No, not 20 minutes, 20%. I never tried it before, but there are several times, especially when you try to paint something like skin color, or for this one Kandinsky event we had, there are some very, very smooth color transitions that was quite challenging to get that with acrylic. So for that one, retarder would be very nice too. So for my painting, I'll just finishing up with my forest. I think that's really the last step. Yeah. If you have questions in between, of course, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll just paint my forest. So, I just used the leftover dark blue that I use for the heels from the edges because they are quite dark as well. Of course, now you can paint the whole frame with the color of your wish. Of course, you can sign the painting. You can do it with a paintbrush, or I personally prefer just some marker. I leave it dry overnight, 2 hours, and then you can sign it with your marker or with a gel pen. And yeah, that's it for the instructions. I will be online for a bit further if you have any questions. And also, if you've been to paint events at Paint Lounge, you know that we always like to take a group picture of you guys. And now, if you like to share your artwork with paint events, we like to make a collage. You can just send one of your painting or with you holding your painting. That would be very nice. And yeah, and also if you find this style enjoyable, we have some more online events coming up tomorrow. Like I said before, it's one with Anna Potts, and also I think 11th of April and 18th of April, one with watercolors, Zurich skyline, and the other one for Fujiyama, so another mountain. And yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the painting session, and thank you so much for joining us. We hope to see you soon again, or at all at Paint Lounge once we can open. And yeah, happy painting and happy weekend. Thank you. Oops. Oh, just one thing. If you just ordered new paintbrushes and the box or something, um, maybe it's obvious, but I didn't know it before. I always clean my brushes with warm water and just hand soap. It just makes the brushes last longer. It keeps the quality. And one artist, she used to just whenever she cleaned it, she make a check with something clean, and then she sees if there is still paint. So she really gets it super clean. So warm water, soap, and napkin check. Yeah, that's it. And then you can have brushes for a lifetime. And thanks for your feedback. Thanks. I'll still have paint, so I will paint my edges. Oh, somebody asked, where can I see the pictures from all people? Um, so if you send yours to info@paintevents.ch, we'll remember this address, and once we made the collage or the album, photo album, we will share it with you via email. If you're on Facebook, we also would like to share it on Facebook, unless you don't want to. So if you don't want to, you can also name that in the email as well. Hmm? Oh, from all the other painters today who painted this painting. Okay, thanks. So, edges painted. This is offline game, really? Ah, so, okay. Yeah, good. Ich habe schon gesagt. Also auf Info@paintevents, oder? Oopsie. Thanks, guys. And sorry, the last comment, like, and your picture is wonderful. Ah, and your, oh, thank you. And your picture is wonderful. Sorry, didn't get that in the beginning. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I actually quite like it. It's, you'll have more time to paint when I do it online. Yep. Now I have a lot of starry nights at home. Hmm. Hey guys, as so far I don't see any other questions. If you still want to know something, feel free to write us or to call us. We'll still answer our phone. And on the number you can see on Google, on our website, and or yeah, email. We're still checking every day. And again, thanks also for all the lovely feedbacks. And yeah, would love to receive your artworks and to see you again. Bye guys. Thanks.